Hello and welcome again to Meet the Creators here at ACMI, well, at home on Zoom, but not long now. Before we start, my name's Denise Erickson and I'm co-founder with Esther Coleman Hawkins of Media Mentors. And I'd like, before we get underway, to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we're working from today here in Naarm, Melbourne, the Wurundjeri and the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present and to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people from all nations in the land. And I also want to thank our supporters, ACMI, Film Victoria and AFTRS. So now we've done the work, let's get on with it. So have you got a scripted project that you're developing or you've made for screening online, but how do you get it seen? Thousands and thousands are made, as we know, but very few go viral on their own. And today we're exploring how you can make more of your projects, how give them much more of an impact with our amazing guests. And I'm just going to introduce them first. Donna Chang, commissioning editor, SBS Scripted, and she's going to talk about digital originals. Hi, Donna.
Hi, Denise.
Louise Cox, the newly appointed Screen Australia Online and Investment and Development Manager. Go girl. Congratulations on the new gig.
Thank you.
Richard Kelly, who's producer and development manager at Two Johns, and he's here specifically to talk about the Tailings, which was an SBS On Demand show, which we'll be coming to. And Max Miller, Aunty Donna legend. I mean, everybody knows Aunty Donna. And one of the brains behind the newly launched Grouse House, which is a comedy or scripted comedy online channel on YouTube. And we're hoping will foster lots more Australian talent and a great way to get your program seen. So welcome, Max. As a bit of an online guru, I'm going to start with you. What's the most successful platform in your mind for getting your project seen?
Well, definitely, I guess in my experience and stuff with things that we've done has been YouTube, certainly in terms of the audience and stuff. But I definitely would never say that you should be looking at just one platform anyway. It's kind of like using the suite of available social media platforms to your advantage, which is definitely something that we've kind of always promoted. So YouTube as a home kind of for the viewing of a show has in our experience has been what's kind of worked the best, but then using Instagram and TikTok to kind of support that, because the audiences are still quite varied and you can find a lot of people through those other channels to get on over to YouTube. Obviously, a lot of people have had great success with reels on Instagram and even TikTok, web series and stuff. So that's not to discount really the opportunities that are kind of can be found across any platform. I guess it just depends on knowing your audience and where they are and how you best kind of reach them. For us, that's been YouTube, but yeah, certainly the other platforms are really kind of coming along as great platforms as well to host series.
Louise, I'm going to come to you. I know that Screen Australia funds certain things online, and you mentioned a couple of them briefly when we spoke. We're going to talk more about the digital originals soon with Donna, but can you just tell us about what sort of offerings there are from Screen Australia funding for online platform material? Scripted, not...
Yeah, so most of the work that we fund through the online department at Screen Australia is scripted narrative. We have recently been able to fund documentary, but that's only a very new change. So most of the series are scripted narrative. And it's with us, you can apply for our grant. Our cap goes up to $500,000. If you were asking us for that much money, you'd probably need to have other partners in the finance plan. But for self-release series, which is a series that goes straight to YouTube, TikTok, any of the other platforms, you can come to us for $150,000 to $200,000 to try and make your series. But like Max said, it's about really knowing where your audience is online and how you're going to get them to watch it, because it is very hard to cut through, particularly on YouTube. I would say is probably the most competitive online space at the moment. And so it's really about knowing that audience and how to get them to watch.
And you've given me a beautiful segue by talking about partnerships. And of course, Donna and Louise, you're both going to be partnering up again soon for another SBS Digital Originals. Donna, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about why, I think start with what is Digital Originals and what's coming up early next year. So let's break the news to people.
Yeah. So Digital Originals is a great partnership that we have with Screen Australia, and we've got like a 3-year agreement where we plan to make 3 digital originals a year, which is great, which means we get to make 9 in addition to kind of, what we've got already. So coming up this year, we have a beginner's guide to grief, I think, which we have announced, which came from one of the workshops that we did was it 2019? I think it was 2019, with a fantastic director, Renee Mao, writer Anna Linda, and Kojo and Linda Ujak are producing that. So we're really excited about that one. And, obviously this year we had our workshop, and, we are, looking at, going to production on, 3 more. So we're really excited that, we will have a kind of consistent pipeline of these digital originals, because they're so exciting to work on, such great talent, and really, a great crop of next gen voices as well.
So I know that there's quite a process involved, and I think it starts again in February. Is that when you're starting? So can you just explain what the process is? When can people start applying, and where does it go from there?
Yeah, for sure. Because it's October now, I would really encourage anyone who's looking to apply to start thinking about, putting their application and their team together now. Because, February will be upon us before we know it. And, what we're kind of looking for, just in terms of kind of the materials, is a 3-page story document, a 10-page script sample, which really just shows us that you understand story, you understand craft and character and dialogue and all those things. And a tip I would say for that 10-page sample would be just say that you're pitching something that is a romance. I would really like to kind of see something that is spiritually kind of aligned to that, rather than something of a completely different genre. Not to say that we won't be able to see the craft in that, other piece of writing, but I just kind of feel like it helps your case a little bit for it to be more aligned. And also because, we get such a volume of applications and we're always seeking out new talent. We also ask for a 3-minute video as well. Just, to kind of get to know, the people behind the team. And, we also really want to get a sense of, their passion for the project as well, and for the stories that they're telling. So that 3-minute video is really important to us.
So is that pitching them or the project, or both?
It's both, kind of, tell us about what the story is, tell us about who you are, tell us why you're driven to make this project, tell us why now, why it would be perfect to make this project, now, and why it would be great for SBS and Screen Australia to, come on board, and, why it would be great on SBS On Demand. So yeah, I mean, those are things that we would really love to see in the application. The process of that application open on the Screen Australia website, and we had quite a lot of applications last year. So I would also just kind of reinforce that it's really competitive, and to put your best foot forward, really, and just keep in mind that it's really, really competitive, and to come up with the most distinct, attention-grabbing story you can, really.
In other words, put the work in before you pitch. I mean, we say that to people all the time. Develop your idea till it's ready to pitch. Louise, this is a premium project, isn't it, for Screen Australia? What's the motivation for wanting to invest in programs like these, initiatives like these?
Initiatives especially Digital Originals, are really about finding and supporting underrepresented voices in the screenplays, in the screen sector. So we found that, obviously everyone has been having a lot of conversations about voices that haven't been heard and who's telling stories. And Digital Originals is one initiative where we focus on really giving people the opportunity to tell authentic stories, and to give more of emerging creators a chance to work on something with an amazing partner like SBS, something a bit more premium to kind of step up from maybe what they've done before. So those are the
Great. Perfect. Donna, I know for you that sort of, new talent cut through is crucial, because I know, when I was at SBS, we had that same thing. We want to develop the SBS family of people who produce for you. Is that what drives you to be involved in something that takes a hell of a lot of work, one would say?
Yeah. That definitely, working with new talent, new voices is always exciting. And I always feel with each of the digital originals we do, there's a lot of talent elevation in that. I think primarily, we want to tell great stories for SBS On Demand, and we're so grateful that we have a digital platform where we can, just kind of go out with these 10-minute kind of episodes. Yeah. And also, secondly, it's about kind of talent development, and also about kind of also giving credits to people, because I feel like credits are really important, in terms of elevating them to the next, having a piece of work that someone can kind of stand behind and go, I directed that, I wrote that. It all helps. And I think the way that we structure the digital originals as well, it's not so dissimilar to longer form television. So I think it kind of builds a muscle in a way, because, we even with longer form television, we want it to start off strong to hook the audience. We talk a lot with our creators about cliffhangers as well at the end of every episode to kind of get people to watch again and watch until the end. So I think it's a really great, and because TV, like long form TV, can be such a slow beast to kind of get up, it's actually can be years of development. Whereas I find that with the digital originals, they're just more agile, and that's a great way to kind of, exercise craft and tell good stories.
Well, you're giving me perfect segues, everybody, today. So I'm loving you all very much. Now, you've given me a segue into the Tailings, which actually wasn't part of the digital originals, but was part of another initiative. And I'm going to come to that in a moment. But before I do that, I just wanted to explain for people who are watching live, we give you a unique opportunity. It's like when the speakers have finished their speech and they're trying to get off the podium and everybody comes rushing in to talk to them and ask the questions they haven't asked to during the session. So what we do at the end of these sessions is we actually say goodbye to the YouTube broadcast about 10 minutes before the hour, and put up the Zoom link and invite you to join in and ask your questions directly on scripted content, scripted online, okay? I don't want you to try and pitch Donna your latest food series or, so get your questions ready. You'll be able to join us in about half an hour from now. Excuse me. Okay, let's talk about the Tailings. And picking up on what you were saying, Donna, I think we might play this clip before we talk with you and Richard from Stevie Cruz-Martin, who is the director of the Tailings. So let's have a look at the promo and this clip, please.
Excuse me, can you tell me where Mulgrave Street is?
Yeah, you take a left down there and hang a right. Keep driving for like 8,000 metres, chuck a U-turn, turn left and go f*** yourself.
Okay.
I think you're a natural.
I feel really blessed to have the cast that I had here. We had Tegan Stimpson, who's playing Jazz, who had never done any screen acting before. And I think that I used to call her like this little rioter, she was just rioting through the town, and I loved that. And she had a real ferocity about her. And then there's Mabel Lee, who brought this tenderness, I thought, to the role.
I don't smoke, so you can put them back.
Calm your farm. I don't care. Nice pick.
It's a bit of a shout out to sort of the younger generations. I think they are really standing in the face of a lot of adversity at the moment, and I'm quite enamoured by their curiosity and their strength to keep fighting for answers. I hope audiences get inspiration in that way, that they feel that they can see youth being real truth tellers and truth seekers, and that's so integral and so important, I think, in everyday life, let alone on screen.
Perfect. Now, Richard, I'm going to come to you. But before there's some quite exciting news out of this series. Who's going to announce the orgy news?
Oh, well,
Richard should.
I will. Sure. It's we just found out about half an hour before we started this session, actually, that our writer Caitlin Richardson has been nominated for an Orgy Award, which is, of course, the Australian Writers Guild Awards that they hold every year. She's been nominated in the short form category, which is great. We're all really thrilled for her, and it's really richly deserved because
fantastic news, and particularly in the orgies, not the orgies. I don't know where my brain went at that point, but anyway, we won't go there. But I think that's amazing because Caitlin was a Tasmanian school teacher who was nurtured through this project. And I know in your role as the producer sat here in Melbourne that a lot of your job was about mentoring too. So can you talk to us a little bit about that process and what it looked like in practice?
Sure. Well, I mean, I came to the Tailings kind of relatively late in the piece because, I mean, you were talking about the agile development span of online projects, and the Tailings, I think, was in development for about 3 years because Liz Doran, my co-producer, who's also a really highly regarded screenwriter in her own right, she'd been working with Caitlin and mentoring her through the early development process. So SBS was engaged with the project quite early on. They became aware of it through Screen Tasmania. SBS, I think it was when Karen Radzner was at SBS, she connected Liz with Caitlin. And so Liz was sort of helping Caitlin through those early rounds of development, which was supported through Screen Tas and SBS, and sort of helped her kind of, I think we originally, when it started, it was 8x10, that then became 6x10 minute episodes. So I really came on at the point when Liz had done, a lot of the script was in really good shape, and she needed a producer to come on board and help with the financing and put those elements together, which is where I came on.
How hard is it to get extra funding for these things? I know you told me you went off to London and had a bit of a win.
We did. I mean, we were really, it was, the good thing about the Tailings was, I guess it's interesting to a point, but also to other people who have come to sort of see about, how you finance your online project. The Tailings was financed pretty much exactly how you would finance a piece of long form television, in that the broadcaster was engaged really early. There was a state agency involved really early. Then Screen Australia came in, and because of the way we were delivering to SBS, we were also delivering as a 1 hour as well as the 6x10. So we were able to access the offset. I did go to London and got lucky in a speed pitching session and was able to sell the US rights. So there were a lot of things that kind of came together that meant that we did have, we had a healthy budget to work with. It wasn't a huge budget, but it was definitely enough to put, so the Tailings has a real, even though it's an online project, it has a premium feel, which is just as much a testament to the people who, the creative team who worked on it, because it does, where I still look at it and go, wow, how did we actually do that? Get it to look that good for, not very much. So, yeah.
I want to bring Donna in a minute, but I do want to ask one question out of what you said. I know there'll be people watching this who go, how do you get money out of a speed pitch? Can you give them like one little tip about how you go into a speed pitching session and win?
Just know who you're pitching to, do your research, I guess, and obviously, know your project really well, but pick your target, and you go, okay, if it's a short form project that you're pitching, make sure that the platform that you're pitching to takes short form content, I guess, because the people who bought the US rights are a platform called Topic. They're really kind of format agnostic, and they program kind of thematically over periods of months, where they might do a whole kind of umbrella theme on the environment or gender or whatever. And they were doing an environmental kind of angle at one point. And I knew that the Tailings, because there's a mining, even though it's not overtly, an environmental project, there's definitely aspects of the story that kind of draw into that. So I was able to kind of, just sort of capitalize on that. But I guess if you need a takeaway, it's just, know who you're pitching to and, do that research. And
Donna, how well were you happy with how the tailings went? Tell me a bit about how the audience was and what the response was.
Yeah, I think the audience response to the tailings was fantastic. We got really, really, great high numbers for the tailings. And I think something that the tailings did was, it really fit the platform. So on SBS On Demand, we've got a lot of people who come to SBS On Demand for Scandi, noir, mystery, dark, and the tailings has that wonderful, Tasmanian kind of all that wilderness and a great mystery at the heart of it. So I feel like when it came out on Demand, it really resonated with that kind of core audience on Demand. So we're really, really pleased with how it went.
And of course, it's still there. I mean, and I love it. I've watched it all and I think it's fantastic. I think the production is amazing for the budget too. We'll come back to how you achieve that sort of production values. Louise, how was Screen Australia feeling about the tailings? Were you happy about how it delivered for you?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it was a great process for us. We're happy that so many people saw it. And it's just great for us to be involved in something that's not only giving an emerging writer like Caitlin an opportunity, but it was also, I believe, one of the first times Liz is stepping into more of a producing role. So it's like developing two people, two women in the screen industry to take on roles that they've not had before, which is something we really value.
Yeah.
Right. Richard, do you want to come in there and talk about the team and talk about the decisions that you make when you've got a small budget but big aspirations?
Sure. Well, I guess we made the decision that, and it sort of speaks directly to what Louise was just saying, but one of the things that I'm most proud of on the tailings is the fact that, Stevie is a first-time director. Tegan hadn't really acted before. She was straight out of high school. It was an incredible team, and every head of department, I think, was a young woman who had, was early in their career. And that's something that me and Liz were really determined early on. We really want to put this, because also I think the way that the story, it's a family story, and it really resonated with all those heads of department, and in fact, with all the crew, really. But I think in terms of realizing those production values, it's just like everyone who we approached, I think they identified with the material, and it's just about picking, those people who are really gonna respond. And I think too, it's also something that you find when you work with people who are earlier in their career. People are really hungry, to go out. And I sound like a really mean, exploitative producer going, oh, yes, you'll work so hard because you want to make it for yourself. But there was a real, everyone was so passionate about putting this story on the screen. And I think it really, it comes across.
And I know that in an interview I heard with Stevie, she was talking about some of the production decisions like handheld cameras, rather. Yeah. What were those budget informed or just creative?
It's that thing where the marriage of the two things just comes together really well, because we knew that we didn't have a lot of time and we only had 3.5 weeks to shoot the tailings. So we go, well, it's much easier, even though shooting handheld and in, available light predominantly kind of has a lot of other, there's a lot of problems that can raise, but also you don't want to be setting up tracks, and you don't want to be setting up cranes and, doing a whole lot of complicated lighting setups for this, for a show like this, because you through your days, much, much quicker than being able to move, in a really sort of agile way. And also the way the story is, it's an intimate story. There's not many big sweeping vistas in the tailings, it's, we're in close, it's intimate spaces and that sort of thing. So it all worked together to create the overall feel of the show.
I think it has a fantastic noise. I mean, Tassie is definitely Australian Scandinavia. There's no question, whether they want to be or not, basically. Yeah. Donna, so before everybody pitches you the Tailings Mark II in February, what are you not looking for? The Tailings Mark II, I would think.
Yeah, I think so. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, Denise, in that, we're always looking to kind of, and Louise, please do, because we're partners together, SBS and Screen Australia on this. We are always looking to stretch the format. So, we're looking to kind of do genres that we haven't done before, new stories. We're not always looking to kind of do the same thing, even though the Tailings was really great for us. It's not something that we want to keep doing over and over and over again, because that would be, really boring for me and Louise that to just, do Tailings Mark II, Mark III, Mark IV. So I would really encourage anyone who's thinking of applying to really kind of go, okay, well, you know, what's something new that Digital Originals hasn't done before, you know, so, and go from there.
Thank you. I'm going to move to Max in a minute and talk about Grouse House and Hug the Sun. But Louise, a question for you first. How important is it for projects to have a partner, say like SBS, or with coming up, we're going to be talking about Grouse House and investing in projects like this, not with the digital originals, but in general with Screen Australia?
I can't speak for other departments of Screen Australia, but for the online department, it's probably less important. We realise that particularly for short form, there are limited opportunities to get a partnership. Obviously, we encourage you to try and to go out and seek any partners you can, extra finance, or even if you can get in-kind support. But for us, it's not integral that you have other money in the finance plan, depending on how much you're asking us for. Like,
what about in terms of helping them find an audience, you know, because I think when we were talking, you were saying how hard it is to set up a YouTube channel on your own and hope somebody finds it. Is it important for them to find that sort of partnership as well, maybe?
It's important that you can show that you know how to find an audience, or that you know where your audience is. It's great if you've already released a series, and I would encourage, if you like have the means to do that, it's great to release something yourself because you're going to learn so much from that experience. But you don't have to you don't have to be a YouTuber. You don't have to have millions of subscribers. You just need to show us that you have a plan and that it's strategic to get that audience to watch, and that you know which platform they're existing in. So especially if you're going for a YouTube channel, it would be really about having a really strategic plan, because starting a YouTube channel in 2021 is pretty difficult, although Max did it quite successfully earlier in the year, so it should be a good time to throw to him to talk about that experience.
So, I mean, Max, you had the huge advantage of your Aunty Donna math. I mean, remind me of the Aunty Donna views and things and followers and all that stuff, because I love big numbers.
I think the views are about 80 million and the subscribers are 500,000, I think, on YouTube.
So that's a pretty good basis to launch Grouse House on. I think we might talk a little bit first, before we go into the detail of Grouse House, about the show that launched it, Hug the Sun. And it is one of the weirdest things I think I've ever seen, and it's strangely gripping. So I think, should we play a trailer first and then you can explain?
I'm very interested to see what clip you've got.
Oh no, it's not that bad. So let's play that clip.
Give me back my hands! Your hands belong to me!
G'day, welcome to Hug the Sun, a show for young people who, like us, believe in the powerful sun god AFTRS.
Magic. Now you're getting it!
There'll be songs, games, and a few wackadoo surprises.
I'm the Shadow Man!
Australia's favourite religious variety hour is returning in May.
Gary helped me with my DMT trip.
Ah! I am all powerful!
And I'm Linda.
I sleep in a basement.
Dogs are widely available and easy to milk.
They make me feel like a piece of sorry to swear.
Magic!
You wouldn't know a joke if it tickled you on the bum bum.
Look at my fingers.
No! Ah!
What's going on?
Join us next week as I introduce you to my beautiful wife, Katie Baby.
What the fuck?
Let's all have some fun and hug the sun.
Australia's favourite religious variety hour is returning in May on Grouse House.
I mean, what do I say, really? I mean, I know this has come from Perth, but how do I ask a question around this? Where did that idea come from? And like, how the hell did you pitch that one?
Yes, good question on how to pitch that one. But basically it came from Ben Russell and Xavier Michaelides, who are the two kind of writer creators and played BJ and Trent in the show, had come to us with the idea for the show that they wanted to do. And I mean, first of all, we really loved it just because of the kind of niche alternative kind of comedy, weird space that was playing in. But also as a practical like show of something that could be made because, you know, it's in a studio, it has a VHS aesthetic and stuff. So it's, you know, it can be kind of made more on a budget as well. So yeah, we just kind of really loved it and kind of wanted to really kind of make it. And originally it was going to be made in Perth, which is why we were talking to Screen West. But then due to COVID and stuff, it was half filmed in Perth and half filmed in Melbourne in the end. Yeah, that's kind of like, I guess, how that kind of came about. But it probably makes more sense as well if I do kind of talk about, I guess, Grouse House, because it was also, yeah, a big part of like how the whole thing came together as well through that.
And Screen Australia and Screen West were the funders on that as well. But as you say, you had a very strategic plan for this series, and that was to launch Grouse House. But so tell me, what is Grouse House? Before I come back, I want to know a bit more about how Hug the Sun was made. But what is Grouse House and why are you doing it?
So Grouse House is a channel that we've kind of started as to try and be like a bit of a new home for Australian comedic web content. That's both for new series, but also old series that might not really exist online anymore and kind of like could use a second life and a new place to live. So basically it's a channel on YouTube that we want to kind of expand and grow into a kind of a broader range of Australian comedy web content. That, yeah, kind of like can be a bit of a hub, I guess, that like people can subscribe to the channel and then be getting, you know, constantly new kind of comedic content and then to build an audience basically from that can then grow and kind of be a thing that exists. So, you know, it's like that's what's been talked previously already today about how hard it can be to kind of, you know, start a YouTube channel. And we kind of see there's a bit of a gap, a bit of a hole in the kind of landscape at the moment where if you're making web content, you're either, you know, trying to do it with one of the big, you know, kind of main, you know, distributors, or you're starting your own YouTube channel from scratch, and both very hard things, you know, like limited opportunities on the kind of broadcast side, and then starting your own channel is very difficult when you haven't got that existing kind of following. So the idea is that Grouse House can, you know, develop its own kind of following, and that people who want to make a web series but don't have the ambition of like starting a YouTube channel from scratch or being a YouTuber can have a place for it to be released on that has a pre-existing audience built in. So how
did you harness the Aunty Donna audience? Was Hug the Sun sort of designed specifically to engage that audience you already had for Aunty Donna?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very early days and we're very kind of new and small. And so we're absolutely, you know, the idea is at the moment, and I'll say this for anyone who's trying to start a YouTube channel, it's kind of like looking at what audience that you might be able to have access to or that you want to target. And for us, obviously, it's the audience who enjoy Aunty Donna content. So using that as the kind of starting place to kind of like, you know, market to and kind of pitch, you know, the series and more series that come out like to that audience, because we have a direct, obviously, connection with that audience, and we know that that's there. So Hug the Sun in particular was just a perfect kind of crossover for that, where also the Aunty Donna faces, Mark Zuckerberg, could cameo in the series as well to kind of help that, and then, you know, they're in the trailer and all that kind of thing. So it was kind of very purposely, you know, the perfect kind of show to launch with. And I think you know, things coming out the next few things will be in that world as well, and particularly newer stuff where, you know, yeah, Mark Zuckerberg again might be cameoing and that kind of thing. And then from there, hopefully the idea is that it can kind of expand beyond that and become more of its own thing that Aunty Donna doesn't really have to be, you know, as you know, seen or involved with anymore. But it's those early days, it's about trying to access that audience, because that's how you would start a channel.
And are you like commissioning things, or are you working with people as you did with Hug the Sun to get projects up for Grouse House? How are you working? What's your business plan?
Yeah, well, at the moment, again, because it's so new and we're so small and we're kind of juggling a few different things, we are working with other comedy creators at the moment. So we have a few projects that we're kind of developing at the moment and be looking to pitch, and hopefully we'll be going to production, you know, on a few things next year. We've got a few old series. We've got one being released right now called Nippers, that was originally made by Comedy Central, but now doesn't exist online. So that's kind of being released. And then we've got a few other existing series that we've got lined up that we're hoping to get out as well. So there's, between new and old, there's a few things that we've kind of got in the pipeline that we're hoping will be coming out over, you know, 2022. In terms of like being, that's kind of like we're very much at capacity with that at the moment, given how small it, you know, we kind of are. So kind of like not actively, I guess, at the moment, you know, looking for things, but that's our intention though, is to get to that place. And we've recently just hired our first employee, so which is really exciting. So we're kind of at the start of trying to grow it, you know, be able to do a lot more and increase our capacity. So that's kind of like our plan for next year, really, is to push that.
And what about if people have got existing content? Can they, I mean, what's the deal? Do you pay for the rights, or is it at this stage, great, you're going to have an audience?
Yeah, well, I mean, at the moment, the making money off YouTube is very hard. So it's not really, you got to be pushing like 1 million views for a video, you know, really to be getting into a category where you're making really good money, or like proper money off it. So basically our model is that like there's a certain amount, a dollar amount that is if under that amount, it's all yours. So we don't pay people for their series, but any money that is generated through ad revenue on YouTube, they get. And we do all the marketing and rollout of the series, you know, as part of our kind of service, I guess.
Yeah.
That's certainly an area that we feel like we've gotten quite good experience in, is the marketing and releasing of the series. And also as a separate service that we're looking to kind of offer to people as well in the future, that they could use us just to market their series, even if it's not on Grouse House as well.
Why the name Grouse House? I always ask these weird questions. I was fascinated.
Well, funnily enough, it was actually what we wanted to call so with Aunty Donna, we had a Netflix series come out last year called Aunty Donna's Big Old House of Fun. And originally our title that we wanted was Aunty Donna's Grouse House. But our American partners didn't know what the hell grouse was, or what it meant.
Poultry was involved somehow.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It was too confusing for them, the word grouse. So we just kind of kept the name and thought that this would be a great way to use it instead, because we thought it was just a funny sounding thing.
Donna, I've got a question for you, because it occurs to me, you know, in times of really tough times in terms of budgets for broadcasters, particularly public broadcasters, do you see you doing more work on SBS On Demand as opposed to the bigger budgets that you're commissioning for broadcast?
No, you know, I don't think we've changed our strategy in any way. You know, we both, you know, we go out with our longer form on linear and on demand. So, you know, we've got that commitment that we have with Screen Australia at the moment with the digital originals, and it's something that we probably will continue with for a couple of years. So, but it is an exciting, like I have to say that online, just full stop, is a really exciting place. And I'm really excited, you know, to see, you know, with other networks kind of what they're doing, you know, with in terms of, even in terms of length of, you know, shows. Like, you know, I was watching, I know this is a big example, but like, you know, WandaVision the other day, you know, it starts off with half-hour episodes and it goes to hour episodes. And I think that's the beauty of, you know, online TV and the way that we're watching television now, that you can kind of play around. Like before, I think if you, like 10 years ago, you never could do anything like that. But, you know, that's the beauty of online now, that there's all this kind of flexibility, you know, in terms of like, you can have 14 minutes, you can have like the next episode can be 50 minutes. Like, why not? That's super exciting.
I love that. Actually, I'm just going to ask if ACMI can put up the Zoom link into chat on YouTube now, because we'll be ready to take questions soon. Richard, one of your jobs is to develop online. That's what it says in your title. So I'm going to ask you a bit about, like, I know you're a small company, but do you see the future online as a productive one for a company like yours?
Well, it's a difficult question, because I mean, predominantly our work is in the streaming space, which I don't really equate with online. But it is something we are always sort of, I mean, we have to be very targeted about it, but I am interested, you know, I'm always sort of on the lookout for short form projects, but, you know, obviously, you know, and as we've discussed today, they have, you know, we have to have a really clear idea of how we would get them out there, especially. And what I was actually just about to say off the back of what Donna was talking about is how important it actually is that, you know, initiatives like Digital Originals exist, because there are so few outlets, and actually to have that support from a platform that has all the resources, you know, of a major broadcast platform to be putting their finances and Screen Australia into nurturing, you know, creators at that level, because it is the opportunity. Why we want to, you know, try and do it where we can as producers is because that's where you get to work with the up and coming directors, you get to work with the new actors, the new writers, you know, the people who, you could populate an entire sort of cast and crew with early career creatives, which is so important, you know, and you don't get that opportunity if you're going, well, you know, hey, Netflix, you know, here's this person, they're going to be great, but will you give me $20 million so they can, you know, it's just, you know, you might be able to do it with the right person, but you know, you'd have to pick that battle. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's so hard, but if we can find the right projects and find a way to get them out there, like, because one of the most exciting things, I think, to me as a producer anyway, is those opportunities when you do find people who are coming up, you know, it's kind of one of the reasons that we want to do it. But that said, you know, I'm always on the lookout for short form projects, you know, with a lot of, you know, it's with a hefty kind of caveat of it's not going to be easy, but, you know.
No, and it's not a great, you don't make a lot of money out of it either. Well, Louise, I think I can see that you might want to come in here, because I was going to come to you anyway and ask you, because I think at the moment the budget for online, I think you said was 6 million a year. Is that right? Or am I making that up?
Yeah, I think that it's approximately 6 million. Yeah.
Do you see it as a growth area? Does Screen Australia see online as a growth area for you?
I think definitely, like, the screen industry is changing so much and has been for a long time, but particularly with COVID over the last 2 years, everything's shifting online. But also I do work for the online department, so I'm probably pretty biased.
Yeah, I'd like that.
But it is like, it's such a great space for emerging creators to experiment and get some experience and to try new things. It gives people access to audiences that they've not had access to before. It gives people who haven't historically had opportunities to speak, to like put their voice out there and connect with people all around the world. I mean, I think it is a huge growth space and will continue to be in the screen sector.
Great. Now I'm actually going to say goodbye to our regular YouTube audience who are watching after the event. So we're now going to let people in. And before I say goodbye, I do want to reiterate that you can check out Media Mentors on our website. And I want to thank Film Victoria for their amazing support, and of course AFTRS and ACMI. Now don't forget to come and visit ACMI as soon as you can here in Melbourne. It's bloody amazing. So come on in, people, and goodbye to the YouTube people. And while our people are coming in, I'm going to ask, in fact, I'm going to ask you guys for a bit of advice about what advice have you got for people making YouTube content? And Max, I'm going to start with you because you've made so much, of a splash online. What's your advice? What are your tips?
I guess some practical kind of tips is definitely, well, first of all, like following on from what we talked about before in terms of like audience and stuff is really important, and being able to like market and target that audience. And if you are starting from releasing something where you're not kind of partnered with anything, it's trying to find something or someone in that realm that, can kind of maybe offer some support even in terms of just like sharing your videos or posting something. Just so you've got a little bit of a leg up and you're not completely starting from zero. And then through release, online, treating it very, seriously like it would as a TV series. So that's like scheduled releases of your episodes. So it's not just, haphazardly going up. It's every, Wednesday at 10 a.m. or whatever it might be. And then trying to support that as much as possible through other auxiliary media across the other channels. So that's like, taking a great little 30-second clip from your show and putting it on Instagram or TikTok, or like trying to TikTokify your show, through little grabs and that kind of thing. It's as much of that kind of stuff is really important because it's just different people across different platforms that, might stumble across it, and then everything should then feed them back to where the home is for your show, whether it's YouTube or wherever.
Great, thank you. Now, I think we've got people ready to come in again. I've been told I didn't say a very good goodbye to the YouTube people. I've got to do it again. So then I give them a little bit of a break. So goodbye, YouTube people, and we'll see you next month. Bye. Wave, everybody.